And welcome to this evening's webinar. Lovely to have you with us. Lara Schoenfeld is alongside me here. Hello, Lara.
Hi, Meg. Hi, everybody out there.
Wonderful to have you all join us. We've had the most amazing response to this evening. I think there are many teachers and therapists out there who are really interested in early childhood education and what we can actually do to disrupt it and to change it and to really take the moment by storm and really care for our little ones. So welcome everybody. Right, can you all hear us? I'm presuming that you can. I can see that one of you has asked about that. If you do have any comments for us, feel free to use the chat. You can introduce yourself in the chat as well. Tell us where you're from. Are you from South Africa? Are you from somewhere else in the world? Are you a teacher? Well, while we wait for everybody to start popping up their little comments in the chat, I'm going to end the poll and I'll tell you who's on here. So the majority of you, a third of you, are employed as full-time teachers. And some of you are therapists as well. So a quarter of you are therapists or similar to therapists. And then we've got 10% of you are stay-at-home mums. What I really loved, Lara, about the response to question number 2, what is the most important thing to you in your career, is opportunity for growth. And that really excites us. I know that is extremely close to your heart, isn't it, Lara?
Yeah, absolutely. I love seeing little ones and teachers grow.
Absolutely. 78% of you have considered running your own business. And for the majority of you, the 2 biggest reasons why that have held you back from it, the one is the fear of failure of the business, and the other one is the financial investment. So there you go, sharing the results up there so that you can have a look and see what everyone responded. So we've got some wonderful therapists people out here. We've got Murray from Nelspruit, very close to where you are, Lara. Lara's in White River at the moment. We've got Maureen from the West Coast, Monique from Cape Town, who's a third-year education student. And that's amazing that we've got some students on here as well. We've got an grade R and triple R teacher. We've got an educator student as well. And then, oh, wow, some occupational therapists from Mauritius. Fabulous. Well, I'm very excited to have you here with us. So we've really got a lovely group. We've got Nicole, who's a wife and mummy, and a full-time teacher from Gauteng. We've got somebody from Gordons Bay, which is where my husband's family is from. So from all over South Africa. And it really is absolutely wonderful to have you all here with us tonight. It's very special to be here. So without further ado, we're going to get started and we're going to move into our presentation for the evening. Right, great. All right, so we are going to be talking about reimagining early childhood education. And I am Meg Fora. I'm an occupational therapist. I am the mum of 3. I am the co-founder of PlaySense. And my partner in crime, who co-founded with me, is Lara Schoenfeld, who's on here tonight as well, who is also a mum of 3 and an occupational therapist. She's a mum of 3 boys. So I think that she's kind of that one step up from me, because that's a whole nother story, having 3 boys. And Lara's based in White River, as I mentioned. So we are really, really delighted to be with you here tonight. So we're going to be sharing our thoughts on where education is going, and also just on a little bit on PlaySense as well with you tonight. And you must feel free to ask questions as you go along. If there's anything that you need explaining, feel free to just pop it in the chat. We won't be manning the Q&A. We're just going to be manning the chat, and we'll come around to questions towards the end. All right, so it's time for a change. We know it's time for a change. And I think that most of you as educators and as parents know that education is not built for this generation of children. In actual fact, education was built for a completely different era. So, you know, kind of go back 500 years, just after the Dark Ages. And the only way that you could access information was if you had access to a church, really. And that was kind of the main source of information, because the only people who had learned to read and who could actually access information were obviously people in religious positions and certain other kind of high-ranking officials in government and so on. So not everybody learned to read. And so information was disseminated, and we got the message according to what the people up there wanted us to know about. And that was what we were kept in the dark, as it were. And of course, shortly thereafter, we moved into a period in which there was a real seeking for knowledge and for information. And it was in this time that the regular human beings in the world started to actually learn to read and started to become more learned. And so this was a very important transition in the world, because we all had access to information. No longer was it given to us, as governments wanted us to hear it. We could actually learn for ourselves. But in order to do that, we had to go to schools and we had to learn in schools. And a huge focus within schools was actually giving people content and information, because there was no other way to get it other than from school. So there wasn't access to books. So you had to go to school in order to learn the information. And that's really how education was built. It was built as a conduit for information. The second thing we know about education is that it was also built, and schools were built to keep children off the streets and out of the, as soon as we went into the industrialized era. So prior to the industrialized era, children could be in fields, they were occupied, their parents were with them. But the minute the parents were going off to work, they needed somewhere for their children to go. And so there was this drive towards buildings. And so these two themes have kind of outlined a lot about what education is about. The one thing is that education is about a conduit for information or content delivery, and the other one is that there was an infrastructure. Now, of course, anybody who has built a business knows that infrastructure is very expensive. And so what ends up happening when you're building expensive infrastructure and beautiful schools is that you have to start to work out how to fund it. And so school fees come in, they go towards infrastructure, and a little is put aside for teachers. And sadly, we think not sufficient, because of course the most important person, the most important piece of the education equation is actually teachers. That's where the magic happens. It doesn't happen in four walls. It doesn't happen on beautiful, pristine playing fields. It happens in the relationship between you and a child. And unfortunately for many of you, and just today I had feedback from a teacher who told me that she was working very long hours and earning 6,000 Rand a month. And that for me was absolutely shocking, that you can have one of the most important jobs in the world being done for such a small amount of remuneration. And so education, I believe, is flawed. And luckily, the world is waking up to the fact that education was built for a different time, it was built for different demands, and it had a different agenda. And it is flawed because infrastructure is expensive, teachers are undervalued and underpaid. Another reason why it's flawed is that in order to kind of get everybody into this infrastructure and make the infrastructure work for us, we have to have very large classes. So the more kids in a class, the more we can cover the costs of the infrastructure. And so we have little children at very young ages being put into big classes. And for any of you who are working in the ECD space, which I presume is a large chunk of you, you will know that the amount of energy, effort, and damage control is in direct proportion to the number of children in a classroom. Am I right? So the more kids you got in your class, the more that you've got to be able to kind of watch what everybody's doing. You've got to deal with the temper tantrums. And a lot of what our teachers who work within Play Sense say to us is that actually there's more damage control going on than teaching, because you're not able to respond before the behavior happens, you're responding to the behavior. Another major flaw with education is that aside from the very big groups that toddlers are in, it is also quite a bit of one size fits all. So there's one system that everybody has to fit into. And we know this. I mean, we know exactly how flawed the outcomes-based education model is, where there's a measure that everyone has to get to, and they are measured on that outcome. And we know, particularly in the ECD years, that this is completely flawed, because human development is so varied in a younger child. You know, later on, a lot of the kids will catch up. So that by the time little boys get to 10 years old, they might be all on the same sort of level. But certainly little boys between the ages of 3 and 5 years old can be a vast difference between the development that's happening for each individual child. So putting education to a whole bunch of children and like kind of one cookie cutter approach, one size fits all, simply cannot work when it comes to young children. It doesn't work. And the other reason why we believe that education is flawed is that there's massive inefficiencies. You've got groups of people going far from home to get their children into a school. And so, of course, when you think about the infrastructure that we leave behind when we go home, when we go to work, and if you think about the convenience of our neighborhoods, wouldn't it be wonderful if schools could happen in our homes, in our neighborhoods? So to start off tonight, I want to really put it to you that we believe that education, and schools in particular, are a product of history. And now we have built up towards a time where it's time for change. Now, I don't know if you know what the words BC and AD stand for. Well, I'm going to just turn it on its head. I'm going to say that BC stands for before COVID and AD stands for after disease. And the funny thing is, none of us know when after disease is coming, but let's just say after lockdown. And certainly last year, being in the education space as we have been for the last few years, last year going through the lockdowns and COVID, we started to realize that not only does there need to be a shift in what is taught to children and what the mandate is the teachers need to teach children, because we know that the children who we're teaching now are going to be playing, as it were, in the business world in 50 years' time or in 20 years' time. So we need to build a different education system from that perspective. But in addition to that, we actually need to build a different system for this post-COVID world. And so for this world as we emerge from all of our lockdowns. Now, of course, we know that we are very likely to be going in South Africa to be going into another lockdown this year. I think I would bet probably a 90% chance that there will be another lockdown over winter. And so we have to have education systems that are built for that are built for virtual learning. And the question presents itself, and I know it's the question that is in all of your minds, is how on earth do we do that with toddlers? How do we get early childhood education into a virtual system? So when we look at what's come post-COVID, and when we look at the trend worldwide, yes, there's a trend towards online education. The big question mark is whether or not we can do that with toddlers, and we'll come around and talk about that just now. But certainly another big trend that's coming out are these micro schools. And the beauty of micro schools is exactly what education should be doing. It's using infrastructure in people's homes. It's way more efficient and more convenient. It's smaller groups. That's why it's called a micro school. It's built for viruses and pandemics because you have less chance of little ones getting sick. And so in some ways, COVID, which has delivered us a whole lot of challenges, has also delivered us a couple of opportunities. And this particular opportunity of micro schools is certainly one of them. So when we think about how we reimagine education, we have to think about two parties. Of course, the most central party is actually the child. And that child is not so much a stakeholder in the education business or in the education world. They are more of a beneficiary. So if you think about the child as a beneficiary, that would be the way how we would consider that they are receiving the benefits of our teaching. But we have two stakeholders, which are the people that are invested in education. And the one set of stakeholders are parents, and the other set of stakeholders are teachers. And as we started to think about what we were going to talk about tonight, we started to think about, let's start with why. Let's start with what problem are we solving? And I want to first present to you the problems that we solve in terms of parents. These are the things that parents want to know when they're looking for education. The first thing is they want safe and quality childcare so they can work. And you will all know, for those of you who were in lockdown with a 2-year-old in your house, that it was very, very difficult to do your work when you were trying to educate your child. It was different for your grade 7, grade 8, grade 9 child and your older child and your university child, because they could get on with it behind a screen, but a toddler can't. And so that element of childcare is very important for parents. Second thing is parents want to know, they want to have ideas of how to play. Lara and I have just done a talk this week, which was entitled the Playtime Workshop. And we had over 500 parents sign up for the Playtime Workshop. And the reason that we had such demand is that parents know they've forgotten how to play and they want to know how to. When I asked my team what was the number one thing that they wanted to know when it came to choosing a school, they wanted to be able to drop off and pick up a happy child. Very important. Another big driver for parents is they want their children to be school ready, and Lara's going to speak to that this evening. They also want convenience. They want to be near to their home or near to their work. They want ideas to do with their child, and they want a fabulous teacher. So those are our parents' needs. Okay, so what are your needs? And I'm going to guess that these are your needs. And what I want you to do, I've numbered them tonight, and I want you to open up the chat, and I want you to just read through the number 1 to 7, I think it is. There they are. And I want you to tell me, or tell us all, which is the number one that resonates with you. So have a look. Is it that are these your pain points? That I work all night and work all day and prep all night? Is that your pain point? Or is your pain point, I'm running out of ideas, I don't know what to do anymore? Or is your pain point, I don't want to be isolated and alone in my play school? And maybe for those of you who are business owners, that's your pain point. For others of you, it might be, I do this for the children, but I just hate the admin. Like, why am I caught up in that? or for others of you, is it how do I navigate the government ECD landscape? How do I get my education school actually registered? And we've just been through that with PlaySense. It's a big mission. And what about large classes? I mean, large classes mean more damage control than nurturing. Like, I want to be able to nurture children and I'm ending up just doing damage control. Or is number 7, I've always wanted my own school. So we've got some of you responding there, super. So number 7, number 6, number 5, number 4, super to see what your responses are. Number 6, a lot of you saying that you do want to have your own schools. All right. So number 7, number 6, lots of 7s and 6s. Large classes mean more damage control than nurturing, and I've always wanted to have my own school. And then for some of you, I'm running out of ideas. So those are what we perceive to be your needs. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So we're going to break this into 2 sections. Lara is going to address the first part, and then I'm going to address the second. So Lara's going to look at what actually do children need, and how can we reimagine education to make sure that our children are playfully learning in order to develop holistically, that there is a nurturing environment as a transition from home to big school. And they also need a teacher who is in tune with the children. So Lara's going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about how do we get connection, how do we get ideas, and how do you get support, and how do we get teachers a better income? Because one thing's for certain, teachers are not earning enough. So I'm going to hand over to Lara now to talk about what children need.
Thanks, Meg. And I just want to welcome everybody who's joined us perhaps while you've been speaking. So we really believe that playful learning is what children need, and they have to develop holistically. And as an occupational therapist myself, you know, I guess I've always thought about just the milestones. You know, if children have their milestones, if they develop appropriately, and we can tick those off, then of course they'll be school ready. Of course they'll succeed in life, because it's not just about school. Hey, it's you know, for us, we want children to have life success. And so, what does the research tell us about the skills that children really need in this new world that Meg has outlined for us? What do children need when you can get any information at the touch of a button? Well, these are the 3 things. Well, the top 2, and then I'm going to propose a new term that I'm going to chat through in a second. But when I set about to write the PlaySense curriculum, I thought, what are the skills and how do we develop them? So the first one is self-regulation. Then research shows prosocial skills and learning ready. Let's have a look at the body of research on these different terms. So the first one is self-regulation. Now, initially, it might just look like impulse control, but it's actually more than that. There was a researcher called Michel, and he did some research at Stanford University in the 1960s. And he gave children a marshmallow in a room, and he said, if I come back and that marshmallow is still there in 15 minutes, they were about 4 to 6 years old, I'll give you another marshmallow. What's very interesting is they have studied these children throughout their lives, and the research shows us that actually those children that could wait, so it looks just like impulse control, but it's more than that, but those ones that could wait, they had better life success and outcomes throughout their lives. Things like whether they could wait or not predicted their SAT scores better than IQ, better marriages, better, they earn more, they have lower body mass index. So it's actually a measure of life success. So what is self-regulation? It's really the ability to name our own emotions, to act appropriately, as well as recognize another's emotions and have empathy for them. It's also problem solving and being able to pay attention. Now, this skill is really what our children need for the future, and it's confirmed by studies like Google, top companies out there. What's the second bit of research has shown on prosocial skills? So firstly, what are prosocial skills? Well, it's the voluntary behavior intended to benefit another. So those are both social and emotional factors that have an impact on cognitive development. And they're things like taking turns, collaborating, following rules in a game, having empathy for one another, They overlap with self-regulation, having confidence, impulse control, and motivation. Now, what I was fascinated doing some research recently is that these factors have been shown to have as important, and if not more, of an impact on cognitive development than learning to read and write and recognize letters and sounds. In fact, prosocial skills, the higher a child's prosocial skills, the better the researchers could predict for academic achievement. And what really excites me is that's despite IQ or socioeconomic status. So that is a huge, huge finding. And these things together, self-regulation and prosocial skills, there's even an overlap. We really feel and believe at PlaySense that this is what makes children learning ready. This is not the same as being school ready. It's not just having all the milestones that you need, because many children enter the school system. I'm sure some of you can attest to this in our audience tonight, that they have the school readiness abilities. They can tick them all off, but what is missing is the foundation of the neurological systems on which these abilities rest is shaky. And so they actually start to show problems in school. And one of those things is using a great deal more energy than they should need to, than to just to keep coping. So some children who can read and write early, they actually are being shown to show more aggression, to have less empathy for their peers, and more attention difficulties later on. And another example, which again, some of you may be able to attest to, is high anxiety of primary school age children. And that is because they're not learning ready. They might be school ready, but they're not learning ready. You'll see that we don't focus on ticking boxes at PlaySense and measuring milestones. Why? Well, we believe that if the following happens, which I'm going to outline in a sec, milestones become a byproduct of a great play-based curriculum, a wonderful nurturing environment, and a magical teacher. So let's have a look at each one. How do we achieve this? Well, engaging a child's imagination with pretend play is the key to developing self-regulation and pro-social skills. Yet, we have found, interviewing a lot of teachers, that pretend play has fast disappeared from preschools because of this emphasis on academic skills and letters, numbers, writing, and worse, worksheets. So let's go back to a good old favorite, I'm sure you'll remember from child psychology, is Vygotsky. And Meg, you can just flip over for me. Vygotsky concluded that of all activities, pretense allows young children, it affords them the greatest opportunity to become self-regulated. Now, why is that? So I've got three small pictures there for you. The first one is playful substitution. So the blocks there are being used as a fence. And I'm sure you've seen children use a block as a phone, a block as a car, and a block as a doll's bottle to feed a little baby. Now, what is a child doing? They are actually distinguishing an internal idea from a concrete reality by changing the object's usual meaning. And they're relying on thought and not impulse. And this happens in imaginary play. They're playing zoo in the left-hand corner, and they're building enclosures for the animals using blocks. The next picture shows how following social rules happens in pretend play. So when a child willingly places constraints on their own actions, so lying still for the doctor to examine you, you can't pretend with another person unless both of you agree about what you're pretending. Players must conform to a set of rules, and practicing conforming to such rules helps them develop better self-control over time. So lying still or standing at attention, if you're the castle guard for the princess and the dragon, can be normally very difficult for a busy child, but suddenly in pretend play, it looks very easy. And then the third picture, what they've found when they study children who engage in a lot of pretend play is that these children engage in more private speech or self-talk, and this assists them in planning and controlling behavior. So for example, giving a child a spray bottle filled with water when they're scared of the dark, and that's the monster spray. Next time they're scared of the dark, they will have self-talk. They'll have had an actual concrete experience, which then relates to an abstract idea in their heads, and next time they'll say, it's okay, I sprayed the monsters with the monster spray. So at PlaySense, our curriculum has been carefully constructed. We have themes and sub-themes which are scaffolded to encourage imagination. Next slide, please, Nick. So, for example, in that left-hand picture, there's the farm theme, but every week, part of the month's farm theme, there will be sub-roles, human roles, such as the farm vet or the milkman or the tractor driver. And on the right-hand side, we've got the sea theme, and this little one is a pirate. We've got the fisherman, pirate, biologist, and what that encourages the whole curriculum, and the whole day is around scaffolding.
Sorry, has anybody else lost Lara, or is it just me? Okay, so you've all raised your hand. Okay, all right, we've lost Lara. Oh my goodness. Okay, so hopefully she will hop back on any minute. I'm sure my team will just inform her that we've lost her. Okay, all right. So, all right. So let me just go back to a little bit more. Oh, there you're back, La. I'm so pleased I don't have to do your lecture.
Where did I get to?
Sorry about that. No, you were talking about the picture on the right.
Okay, fantastic. So basically, the pirate is a sub-theme of the sea theme. And it is so, you can just see the little one's dressed up, she has a role, she has props, she's going on a treasure hunt. And so we really believe that pretend play needs to be scaffolded throughout the day, throughout the curriculum, so that we can develop these self-regulation and prosocial skills. Now, the second piece of this reimagining early childhood education is a nurturing home from home. As Meg said, large infrastructure and big factory-type classrooms are really don't suit the early child. And so we love having our groups in homes. One of the moms in the group hosts or teacher hosts. And this means that the children really feel that it's an extended play date. And that eases separation. At the end of 2, you're coming out of that phase of attachment versus trust, mistrust, and attachment. And separation can be very hard for little ones. The small group means that also gives the teacher more ability to really come alongside that little one. And then when the brain feels safe, it lights up for learning. It absolutely, when that inner brain, that animal brain feels safe, the little one is then able to engage in learning. And we really find few tears or no tears in our PlaySense group. And then the third piece of the puzzle is the teacher. And as Meg said, we're passionate about teachers. We believe the teacher is really the magical ingredient because learning is based on relationship. And we have 2 roles for our teachers. The first is a co-regulator of both their sensory input as well as their emotions, and then a co-player. So at this stage, when we look at the co-regulator, children are very dependent on their teacher to dance with them, to know when to step in and when to step out. And that's why we have these co-regulator and co-player. So as a co-player, teachers will help children to identify their own way of self-soothing and assist them when they need to self-soothe. They'll have a designated space for calming sensory input. They'll understand that seemingly contrary behavior is not defiance, but attempts for independence. They'll not get too upset about a child's behavior, but stay calm. And because you're not doing all that damage control all the time. They'll give toddlers the opportunity to assert their will using real limited choices, and they'll use speech, which models for a child what they should say to themselves for them to be able to learn the rules. They'll help them to name and identify their emotions. We're working on prosocial and self-regulation. And then as a co-player, Meg, won't you just skip along for me? Okay, so as a co-player, we train our teachers in a play methodology called guided play. And when you think of your role, you need to picture the seesaw seen in the bottom here. On one end, there is free play, where the child has total freedom and choice. And we're pro free play. We have part of that in our curriculum. And on the other end is direct instruction, where the teacher has complete control. Most of our activities are happening in the middle of this continuum in guided play. Guided play is still always child-directed. Children always still feel that they are in control, that they have choice. But adults enrich the environment for child discovery. Adults gently guide and comment on or reinforce the child's action and discovery. And this happens a lot in the imaginary play. And adults have to do a lot of planning before the session. In these pictures, you'll see the teacher also scaffolding as she guides. In the first pic, in the top left, there she's engaging the children in a group activity. They all have their own cushion and own tray, so that helps them to focus and know where they need to spend their attention. And then you'll also see on the top right, the teacher is really making a task more manageable and physically assisting, demonstrating to the child what they need to do. Thanks, Meg. Next slide. So why is this so key? So look at that picture. I'm bored, amuse me. That is the children of today. Why are they not able to engage in pretend play or become mature, dramatic players? Well, children don't know how to play because parents have forgotten how to play. We really found that. Meg and our parents are begging for help on how do I play with my child. The influence of technology, it's so much easier just to pass over that phone if they say they're bored. Overscheduling children. Very young children are learning Mandarin and piano and play ball and all these extra things, which are very structured. They're not guided play. Then a lack of safe outdoor play. Children really had far more free reign before from their home to engage outdoors. And then the mixed age play of yesteryear has really disappeared. And this means that play partners are the same age and as inexperienced as the child themselves. And then, as I've already said, that there's this real pressure to fill these little heads with academic information, the 1, 2, 3s and ABCs, far before children are ready. And so, without adult support, the play of children cannot reach mature dramatic play. So that co-player role of the teacher is so critical. And this has to be as intentional, written into curriculum, and systematic as the huge emphasis of getting content into children. And as Meg said, we think that is flawed. We don't want to be pushing reading, writing, and everything before they are ready. So that is from me. So those are the 3 magical ingredients we feel that develop self-regulation and prosocial skills. Oh, you unmute me.
Thank you, Lars. So before we get on to the how of how we're going to assist and how we can really change everything, I wanted to ask one of our teachers, Kate, if she would tell me why Play Sense is best for children. And this was her response.
And how does play-based learning like Play Sense has compare with other curriculums that are taught?
Other curriculums that I used to teach back in the day, they make the kids grow up way too fast, and they teach them dynamics and things that are out of their depth. They haven't quite grasped the basics before they're going on to the higher levels of the ABCs, the counting, the pattern seeking and everything like that. And yes, we do that, but we do it on a very basic level, and we do it through play, which I love. And the kids actually grasp better than sitting down at a desk and going, right, A is for apple, B is for banana, that kind of thing. Whereas we'll go out and we'll search for something A in the garden, or, and so they like scrounging in dirt for something that begins with an A, where they're using all their senses and all their creativity and all their, just their imagination to find what the end product is that you want them to find.
Right. Okay. So now we're going to have a look at what Play Sense does and what we can offer you. And that's what I'm going to be talking about now. So we've already mentioned it, that we have kind of 3 magical qualities that we think that are very important. We think that the most important kind of tool to really ignite children's learning is, of course, the teacher, and that's the priority. And that's why one of the reasons, and you'll see a lot about what we do with teachers is really built into that, is if we empower you, you are the magical ingredient. The second magical ingredient is absolutely play. There's no question that the most important way that young children learn is through play, and formal education systems that don't allow free play for young children all the way through until formal learning starts in kind of grade 1 really does fail children. And the third magical ingredient for us is being in a home environment. We do not believe in expensive infrastructure for children. We believe that being in a home environment is critically important. So I'm now going to just give you 5 things that we that kind of differentiates us and that looks at how we can actually reimagine early childhood education. So the first thing is that we need to use innovation. And so we believe that we need to teach the skills for the future, but we need to enable it through technology. So a couple of things there. We have an incredible curriculum that Lara herself has developed. The curriculum starts at 2 years old and goes all the way up through to the 5-year-old child. Our 4 to 5-year-old classroom curriculum is going to be launching in the second part of this year and officially in early next year. So I know one of you, Emmy Lou, you asked whether or not the curriculum is applicable for grade R. In Lara's 4 to 5 curriculum, she is teaching pre-learning and pre-math skills, but all through play, very importantly. We also rely very heavily on video material. We believe that we learn through seeing. And so we've created an incredible body of information in terms of learning material that we can use to train you in the way that in the play sense way. We also help you to train parents to become engaged families. And we do that again through technology and through the platforms. And we support teachers to support parents to play. Our technology platforms I'm going to show to you now, they have both teacher access. So our curriculum is delivered to you on your computer or on your cell phone, on your iPad daily, but also has parent access for those situations when we lock down. And we're going to talk a little bit about that now. The second thing that we believe is critically important, and in fact, it was the #1 thing that you all identified in terms of your needs as a teacher, and that was personal growth. We believe that we are all on a lifelong journey of learning, and are very excited to come alongside teachers. So our PlaySense program goes through 32 hours of initial training, plus some first aid training. And then we go into monthly teachers training. So every month, Lara and her team actually train teachers on different elements. So for instance, this month might be how to deal with high needs children in the classroom. There's very active children or the children who have communication difficulties. We also train you on how to market your business. And that's obviously quite a daunting thing for teachers. How do we know that our businesses aren't going to fail? We come alongside you and we train you on all of these things. We also have an occupational therapist, Lara Court, who actually supports you. So if you have difficulty in one of your groups, we'll either send her into your group or she'll consult with you telephonically if you're in a different city. And so we make sure that occupational therapists can come alongside you at every different moment so you can really learn through the process. And we also have an incentive scheme that the teachers can actually really receive benefits back from PlaySense just based on learning that they do. We also are registered with Keller, which means that you'll get your SACE points and your CPD points, which are really important. And so we really come alongside you to make sure that your learning journey is as important as your little ones. The other thing that's really important is connection to community and support. And, I think from all of us, we don't want to deal in isolation. For many of you, you are owners of your own schools and may feel isolated. And with PlaySense, that just isn't something that we buy into. We want you to feel completely connected. And so we support teachers to support parents to play, and we do it by making teachers feel supported. So we have a teachers resource group. All of our teachers are on there and they share ideas all the time. There are just incredible ideas that are being shared of everything from art activities to how to deal with a tricky family situation. We also do parent talks, so we make sure that your parents can attend any of our talks for free. We do a talk every month. So the one that's coming up now in April is going to be on positive boundaries and discipline for children. And your parents attend for free. If they're part of your school, they come along for free. As I mentioned, we have the OT supervisor. And then we also have our pod managers. So our schools are broken up into pods. So you will have your individual school, but you're part of a pod, which would be an area. So for instance, Gauteng at the moment is a pod. We've got a KwaZulu-Natal pod. We've got a Western Cape pod. In those pods, you have pod managers who just really support you. They do all of your admin for you. They help you with your marketing. They pick up a lot of the pieces with your parents as well. And then, of course, we give you sales guidance and support. Then we believe in being flexible and being connected. We know what happened last year. We were all running our beautiful in-situ schools, and flip, just like that, in March last year, you had to take everything online, and we support you with that. So our curriculum can go straight from being in home or in situ or in your school all the way to online with absolutely no problem. And I wanted to just show you a little bit about what our program looks like. So this is our in-home program, and this is an example of the portal that you would be able to access your information on. So there you can see every day is planned for you. This is on the C theme. If you click on the theme button up at the top, you then will have all the information that needs to be for that theme. So what books do you need to get? We have printable cards that you would use in order to execute the curriculum. And then we also have all of your resource lists. So you get a plan for every week, as well as your resource list that you can actually print out. And then we have your music. So you can just have it open on your iPad. All of our tunes, all of our music, everything is loaded up in the music section. And then we have further classroom ideas. So our classroom ideas would be things like proprioceptive activities or a storage box or whatever it might be. And then on the dashboard, you can click on any of the pink signs over here. And when you click on one, you end up getting more information about that specific activity for that day. So what is very important for us is that we want you to be able to be teachers who can actually just be teaching. We don't want you to have to be doing homework after hours. And so we do all the planning for you for all of the themes. So this particular theme, as you see, is the C theme, but we have 11 themes that we've done all the planning for. Right. If you are on the in-home program and you have to flip into online, because we know that that's coming up, we know that in June or July this year, all of our schools are going to close down again. It's a given. And what is going to happen? Are you prepared for that? And what we've done is we've prepared you very adequately. So your entire curriculum moves onto the online portal. Your teachers, your parents can actually access the same online portal, so they get to see exactly what they should be doing. There's the resource list that tells them exactly what they need to get, the books and so on. So the parents, teachers hands are really held through this process. And then, of course, we've also got information for starting the week. So when they start their program, they get 2 activities per day for every day. So here's 2 activities for this particular week. There's an art activity and an imaginary play activity. And we really show you exactly how to do it. And then you guide the parents with a morning interaction and an afternoon interaction through Zoom. So you do see your little ones, but we help you understand how best to really help children to learn at this age through technology. And we don't focus only on technology because we know that sensory and engagement are just as important at this age. So we'll be able to flip between. Right. Then the next piece about the puzzle is having an operating system. So if you join PlaySense, each of your little schools gets loaded up onto a map like this. So there's Sally's school in Frederhoek over there. And when a parent actually clicks on it, they get all the information about your school. What are your fees? And then they can actually join your school right then. They can just click enroll now and feed into your school. We also, if you have got spaces in your group, we advertise for you. So we have a big marketing team who are absolutely amazing at placing the ads in the right places. We know that teachers it's not necessarily something that you would want to be focusing on. So we'll do all of your marketing for you. So there you have it, innovation, training, connection, operating system, and being flexible and connected so we can move between an online and an in-home system. So that really is what PlaySense offers all of you. So we're going to be taking your questions now. We've got some fabulous questions coming through, so do pop them up. I'm going to read them out and then I'll answer them. So the first question is your curriculum flexible or do you have to follow it exactly? So Lara, I wonder if you want to answer that question.
Thanks, Meg. I did type a reply and I said we love teachers being creative, but it's really important to first be trained in our principles so that you know sort of how to keep all these things alive that we've spoken about. So, and our themes are actually scaffolded throughout the year as well. So theme 1 is a lot more basic in terms of the requirements of a child at 2, because imagination is just starting to start, so is language, compared to, for example, the fantasy theme, which is right at the end of the year. So yeah, there is a lot of structure, but we also really want teachers to contribute, share ideas, and be creative.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, you can be flexible. Our teachers love to add in their own ideas, and particularly in the art and sensory play activities, they'll add in a lot of their own activities, and they'll share them on our resource group as well. So we've got another question here about host homes. Teacher asking, can she host in her own home? Can she run her own school under the PlaySense brand? So yes, we love teachers who host in their own homes, because that means that you are going to be able to have a steady host space, because otherwise we'll be looking for a new host space for you every year. So certainly if you've got your own host space, if you can host at home, that is absolutely first prize. If you have been running your own school in your home, so you've got your little school going and you want to be part of an organization, that's also absolutely fine. So you can come on board, we'll onboard you just like everybody else, and we'll be able to help you and assist you with executing your schools, no problem. Another question is, all right, are we going to share our slideshow? Yes, so we definitely can share our slideshow. You will be getting something tomorrow that is a follow-up email just with all of the points from today's talk, and you can definitely share that on. All right, so another question is, what programs can I use to help my 2-year-old to start talking? That's a fabulous question, La. Would you answer that one? Because our curriculum really does address that.
Yes, so read, read, and read. Absolutely important to not dumb down what we say to little ones, to get really great books. And that is really beyond all the research points to that, being the highest predictor for language is how many books your children have been exposed to. But very importantly, when you read to your little one, not to just read what's on the page. At this age, to engage in something called book bonding or book sharing, where you really actually follow your child's lead. You point and you name, you ask questions, you let them turn the page, that they really fall in love with books. Often when parents will say, oh, my child's not interested in books, and that's because we're kind of making sure they go from one page to the next. Then singing, lots of music, lots of singing, all the nursery rhymes are so important. And then pretend play. So language is actually symbolic. When you learn that this is a cup, that this is the name for something that is concrete, that's actually a symbol. And so speech therapists use pretend play a lot in helping children to improve their language. So yeah, those are 3 tips there, Meg.
Absolutely. Oh, we've got lots of questions coming through. I'll take this one. Renata asked, has this been developed with sensory integration deficit children in mind? Yes. So one of the best things about PlaySense is that because it's been developed by occupational therapists, we are very focused on individual learning styles. We're very focused on the individual child. So a lot of the program caters for children with sensory integration deficits, or even alternate learning methods. So children maybe who aren't verbal, children who are needing a little bit more support. So if you do have children in your groups who do need more support, it is absolutely the perfect program exactly for that reason. We've answered that one. Okay, so here's a lovely question. I homeschool my 22-month-old. Are touch and feel games okay for her? So absolutely. If you're homeschooling your little one, sensory play is very important. And for those of you who are homeschooling or who are wanting to homeschool your little ones, PlaySense actually has an online program in which you can connect your little ones with other children. So there is the social element, plus you get the activities every day. So it's almost like having the absolute best of a homeschool program for your child. We also have a homeschool program that doesn't involve any online contact with other children. So we've got a whole program that is set up both for homeschooling and for online learning. Another question from
this one, yeah, about is it only for teachers, or will OTs be able to open a school or a program? And we've actually had OTs join who have a therapy practice in the afternoons, and they're using their therapy room in the mornings for a PlaySense group. And that can be with typically developing children, or it can actually be like as an intervention program with children who aren't developing typically.
Absolutely. And what's also happened there is a lot of therapists have got quite busy afternoons in their practice, but very quiet mornings. And so then you can actually use your practice as a school in the morning, and then as obviously as an OT practice in the afternoons. There's another question about how long our planned day is. So our planned day goes from 8:30 to 12. However, there's so much in that often you don't get all through all those activities. So if you've got a full day program that you want to be running, and so if you are going to be running a full day so that it runs into the afternoon, you can actually use the program through that entire day. But the official Play Sense day is a 3.5-hour day. I'm going to get to the cost questions. There are quite a few of them, and I'm going to get to them a little bit later. This is a great question from Megan. How do you encourage play when everyone's so hyped about social distancing? You know, you can't stop little ones from playing and touching and feeling and being in each other's space. That's just not going to happen. And in actual fact, it's important that they are in each other's space. It's part of learning. But the magic of having a very small group is that you really do limit your bubble. So our groups are really made up of only 6 families. And I think that's the way that we limit it best. So through an activity program like Play Sense, you're getting your sensory stimulation, which is very important for brain development. You're getting your social engagement, which we know is critical for lifelong learning, but you're doing it in a small and controlled space, in a small and controlled environment. Do you want to add anything there, Lara?
No, I think I totally agree. We're still very careful with things like Play-Doh. Children each have their own Play-Doh, and some of the sensory materials that the teacher won't reuse, for example, which she might have before COVID.
Yeah.
So where we can, we really do try not to share germs.
So this is a good question. What are the requirements to become a teacher with Play Sense? So you have to have some sort of basic education in the direction of psychology, therapy, or teaching, and some experience. So your experience can be limited. It can be something like you've been an au pair your whole life and now you've just finished studying. We do take teachers who are straight out of university, because we believe that we really can enhance your skill set and nurture you to become an amazing teacher. But we also look obviously for experience, and we wouldn't take somebody who has had no experience with children, obviously. Emmy Lou says, your curriculum goes up to 45 years old. Would we say that 6-year-olds in her class would also benefit for it, or would they be out of touch with the activities because they're a year older? Lara, you can answer that because you're busy developing the 4-to-5 curriculum.
Yeah, I really think that children, it's all about the teacher and how you structure all the activities. I think my older boys are even very intrigued by what my 4-year-old's getting up to. And it's so rich in story and pretend and making props for the actual pretend play. And for example, in art, they're making cameras this week from boxes. And my older boys were, making their own cameras. So I really feel, and with our addition now of pre-reading and pre-maths into our 4-to-5, it would really benefit older children.
Excellent.
As well.
Excellent. So now we've got a lot of questions about the franchise itself. So Catherine and Lisa both asked, what size do we need? Do we need a designated room? What does the home environment look like if the home is small? So it is absolutely wonderful if you've got a bespoke space. So if you've got a garage space that you can convert, or a Wendy house, it's a larger size Wendy house outside, or a playroom in your house, that's perfect. However, lots of our group run in dining rooms, for instance. We just move the table across in the morning, set up the activities, and as long as there's a nice outdoor area and a sheltered area to be able to do art on a veranda, you can use even a dining room or a lounge. So it's very, very variable. Our pod managers will come and assist you in setting up your space. So it doesn't have to be a perfect space. And remember, for little ones, and Lara made this point, it's more important that it's in a home than that it happens in a perfect space. One of the questions Vicky asked is, where are we located? We are all over South Africa and in Dubai, the Middle East. Anywhere in South Africa, you can. We will set a group up for you. We've got lots in Johannesburg and Cape Town, fewer in Durban, and we're starting one in White River with Lara. So that's where we are. So I want to get onto the cost side of things, because I'm very aware of the fact that we've only got a couple of minutes left. And I know many of you want to know what is entailed here. So there really are kind of 2 pieces to the startup part of the puzzle. So the franchise fees. The one is the training fee. So our training is valued at 11,500 Rand, and that includes training as well as all the business setup. So it's setting you up so that you've got a business that's ready to go. And that's the initial franchise fee. And then we've got equipment of 25,000 Rand, and that is a full school's worth of equipment. There's even a little jungle gym, so it really is very cost effective. Occasionally we've had teachers who said, could they put the equipment together themselves? and they can never do it for as cheaply as that because we get a good price. So in total, you're looking at about 36,000, including that. So to set up a PlaySense school. But the really good news is that we've just launched a sorry, I'm just want to go through that. We've just launched a competition that we're going to be running this month, Making Dreams Come True. So if you're dreaming of owning your own play school and you apply in the month of April, 3 of the teachers are going to be given 25% off their franchise and of their franchise fee. And so that's 9,650 Rand that will help make their dreams come true. So if you apply straight after this tomorrow, we'll get back to you and you will form part of that potential competition to be able to win that as well. All right, so lots and lots of questions still coming through. I'm so sorry we don't have time to get to all of them. I just wanted to just take a couple of moments to just share with you what our teachers have to say about PlaySense.
So sometimes it's a huge decision to go from being a teacher in a secure job, like you were in a play school, jumping into your own business in PlaySense. What made you decide to take the leap from being a teacher to a PlaySense teacher?
So it had been on the cards for me for a few years. In fact, when I was pregnant, I started looking into it and I thought, oh, you know, this is something that would maybe allow me more time with my son, but I was too hesitant to take the jump then. And now my son is 3 and my circumstances change and it actually became a possibility for me. And yeah, I'm so grateful. I think it has been a phenomenal change for me. And yeah, I'm loving the community that I'm in. I'm loving the time that I have. It's really giving me a lot of benefits, and it's just something new, and I'm challenging myself and learning all the time, which is also great.
And tell me, PlaySense supports you as a teacher in many ways. What ways for you stand out as the most important things that PlaySense supports you with?
So the first thing was the training, definitely, because when you first get access to your portal, it can be overwhelming. So the training, and then obviously that the ongoing learning that goes hand in hand with the training, where there's support meetings, there's the training meetings. So there's always new knowledge that's being shared with us, new ideas. Then the teacher support group on WhatsApp. That's amazing, giving you great ideas every single day, and having them as your team and sharing ideas. And even though you don't work in the same building together, you still have that support from the other teachers that's working with PlaySense. And I must say, from people who's not working physically together, that's even more interaction that I get from teachers than working in a building with other teachers, you know. So it's really nice having that support. And then the pod manager, that's assigned to us. That's amazing, you know. Sometimes you get into this pickle where you don't know what to do, and it's nice to have that one contact person where you can go to her for advice. If you don't know where to find something, she'll advise you on it. She helps you communicate with the parents. So it's really, I must say, my pod manager, Kath, really did amazing with my Aspen group. She basically set everything up and I just came in there. So without her, the Aspen group would have never happened. She got all the children for the group. She started the WhatsApp group. So I must say, without that, we wouldn't have been as successful as we are being on our own.
What about the administrative side of running a group? What does PlaySense do for you there?
Meg, I'll tell you, I'm not very strong. My admin skills are not very strong, and I think that's why I'm a teacher. I'm more hands-on. And what PlaySense does for me is they take care of all of those background nitty-gritty things like invoicing and following up with parents with regards to fees, and which means that I don't have to go and do that. My focus can then just be on the children and what I need to put together for them for tomorrow, not worrying about, oh, have they been invoiced? Have they done this? Do I need to follow up? Oh, and yeah, so having an admin team like our PlaySense admin team is just absolutely amazing.
And finally,
Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for joining us. We would love for you to join PlaySense. We are passionate about your education and your professional development. We're passionate about children and we're passionate about our community, and we would love for you to join us. So from me, Meg Fora, and from La, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and hopefully you'll join our community too. Thanks everybody. Good night.
Thanks. Bye everyone.
Cheers.